Hi, I'm Josh. This is everything I wish I knew when I became an author. Now let's write this thing. Okay, so you've got an idea, you've planned it as much as you need it to be. This could be either you know what happens in every single scene, or it can just be that you've developed your character and your settings. Do as much as you need to do for your planning. Now let's get writing. We're going to do it as quickly as possible. Don't worry about your spelling, your punctuation and grammar. We're going to deal with that stuff later. The main point is just get this thing finished. Depending on your style, the drafting stage, and by drafting I literally just mean writing the story from start to finish, can either be the longest or the shortest part of the process. For those people who like to develop everything meticulously, this can be done really, really quickly. For those who are finding the story out as you write it, this can be a longer process. Both are valid. In total, they both take up about the same amount of time, so don't worry about that. Experiment, see what works for you. And it's important to remember that either of these styles, whichever you choose to use, the story is going to change. We're going to look at it in future, decide what works, decide what doesn't work, and then make changes accordingly. So what you're writing now is not going to be the finished product. This process really is as simple as and as complicated as just write one word after another until the story is done. There's not too much technical complication that I can explain beyond that, but I am going to give you a few tips on making the process easier. Tip number 1, try and write something every single day, even if you don't write a lot. And I would stress this rule a lot. Don't miss 2 days in a row. Because if you miss 2 days, sitting down to write on that third day can be really, really difficult. You don't have to write a lot. You don't have to write every single day. You could choose to do 6 or 5 days a week. But I would avoid missing 2 consecutive days. So here's a secret about forming good habits. Once something becomes a habit, it does not require the willpower to do it that it did when you were first starting. Some of us look at people who go to the gym all the time and think, how can they do that? How can they have the willpower to always go to the gym? But if you ask those people, they would be more bothered by missing a day. It would take more willpower for those people to not go to the gym and to eat loads of snacky foods and pop like we do because they've built up that routine. It doesn't take willpower to stick to your routine. What that means for us writers is if we can build that habit in a few weeks or whatever it takes, then it doesn't take willpower to sit down and write every day. In making that habit, try and make it a routine. Try and do the same thing every day. A big piece of advice that you will hear a lot is try and write at the same time. Some people like to do it early in the morning before everyone is up and before the day is started, and then they have the good feeling all day that they've done their writing and they don't need to worry about it. Some people like to do it late at night as everything's winding down because they consider this their recreation. Some people do it during the day and they consider this is just part of doing a day job, as it is for some people, but probably not for us who are starting. Try and write in the same place. I like to do it in here. It's a small little isolated room that other people don't tend to use. I have my stuff here all the time, so I have my paper and my laptop and everything that I need to use for writing, because you want to eliminate the time between deciding to write and actually sitting down and doing it, making it as easy as possible. So if you know your place and your time that you do it, have your stuff ready, so you literally need to open the book, or better yet, just have the book open and begin writing. 2, set a daily goal for yourself. Keep it realistic but fairly ambitious. Different ways you can do this. The 2 main sorts of goals are either a word count or a time count goal. Sit down and write a couple of times before you set this goal, because at the moment you don't really know what's realistic for yourself. So sit down, time yourself, and then count how many words you've written, and then you have a good idea of what an average is for you, and then try and stick to that goal every single day. A third way, which is actually what I do, is I don't do either of those. I give myself a goal of doing a certain thing, for instance writing a certain scene, or I say, okay, tomorrow when I sit down I'm going to write this conversation between these 2 people, and then I know very definitively whether I've achieved that or not. And the third tip is the most difficult to accomplish, and that is that you just have to turn off your inner critic. It can be really surprising when you sit down to write that you'll find this huge disparity between all the excitement you had when you came up with the idea and you were developing it, and you think your idea was brilliant and so exciting and everyone's going to enjoy it. And then when you start to actually write your first draft, you turn on yourself completely and you really doubt it, and you notice so many problems and holes in it, and you think, who on earth is going to want to read this, and it's cliched and done before, or it's boring. you just have to ignore that, because every single idea you ever have, you're going to have that same feeling. You just need to sit down and you need to get the thing written. And remember, you're going to revise this anyway. This is not the final product. This is why I emphasize that you should leave spelling mistakes, because it gives yourself a psychological message that this is not a finished product, and that you're going to fix them later, just like you're going to fix all the plot holes later. You're going to develop the characters later if they seem a bit one-dimensional. And when you do start to doubt yourself, I like this little trick. What's the best book you've ever read? Which had the tightest plot, the richest characters? And now remember that you did not read the first draft. You read the final product. And I can promise you that the first draft had just as many problems as yours does. And that's it. I hope those pieces of advice helped, and happy writing. I've tried to keep this video a little bit shorter. I'm going to try and keep that up with the rest of them because I want to keep these videos just concise, the advice, and then I'll give you more time to carry on with your writing. Okay, if you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. That tells me and tells YouTube that you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to catch the next video, which is going to be on making your revisions and notes on the story. And good luck with your first draft.